Uh, Good afternoon, dear educators. Today we have a special guest for our YouTube channel. His name is Perea. He's English teacher, TESOL member, and we met each other by participation in the project for teachers of the English language in Ukraine. Louis worked in Ukraine as English language fellow, and he will briefly tell about his experience working with Ukrainian students and Ukrainian teachers of the English language. Can you tell about your experience teaching Ukrainian students? Where was it and how was it? Did you like your work in Ukraine? How much time did you spend in our country, and generally your impression about Ukraine?
Sure, thank you, Marina. So yes, I was an English language fellow in Ukraine from 2017 through 2019, so about 2 years. So yes, I was based in Mykolaiv at the Sukhomlitsky National University. And anyway, it was a great experience because I was able to, interact and learn from students at the university level. So these were students who were going to become either English teachers or translators, philologists. So anyway, I was interacting with these students, but also in the afternoons, I used to interact with Access students who were, mainly middle high school. So that was another great experience. So, for instance, with Access students, I was able to, share a lot of activities, games, cultural lessons about the U.S. So it was good because I was able to come up with ideas to teach them about. It was not only language, but mostly about culture, traditions, holidays about the U.S. So we did a lot of activities. For instance, we went on excursions. We went on activities where we would provide some sort of service to the community. We would make our projects. We would make skits. We would sometimes have an actual lesson. So that was for Access. Also for students in at the university. Basically, I was teaching, writing, so academic writing, academic speaking, and I have a couple classes for master's students where we were learning about language assessment and bilingualism, and that was also a very positive experience because we were able to not only learn about the lessons, the curriculum, but we also put into place different projects. So, for instance, when I was teaching, the bilingualism class, we were learning about bilingualism in Ukraine, diglossia, triglossia, and we decided to, as a group, to go ahead and interview different people all across Ukraine. So anyway, whenever I have a chance to travel all across Ukraine, I would try to bring a couple of my students, and we would, interview teachers, normal people in the streets. We would interview experts in a specific theme that we wanted to focus. So, for instance, in Kiev, we interviewed one of the people in charge of the museum. We interviewed also in Mykolaiv. We visited several language schools, which have different diasporas. So, for instance, we went to the let me think. We also, of course, we went to the Ukrainian language school. We went to the Polish. We went to the, I'm trying to remember, Ukrainian, Polish, Hebrew school. We went to the Georgian school. So we interviewed people about how they teach language. Anyway, we interviewed a lot of people, and at some point we put together this documentaries, and the whole idea was to let the people know about the different multicultural, uh, how can I say, different multicultural atmosphere that Ukraine has, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, that was very, very interesting as far as working with university students. And I also had an opportunity to work with, all of the great access teachers and different teachers across Ukraine. So yes, I love
Yeah,
it.
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's very nice. I am somehow get access now uh, to feel myself in this atmosphere that you describe. Unfortunately, we have now in most cases schools and universities who that work online since 2020. Of course, we are waiting for the time when we can open schools again. Unfortunately, in the region where I live, in Donetsk region, it's not possible, and half of Ukraine is still really dangerous to open, I mean, offline classes. But this project is exactly for university students who will be future teachers of the English language. And somehow, by interviewing, exactly as the method you mentioned, like interview, it will be good for them to know experience of English fellow, of English teachers who are based in different countries all over the world, how they work with different groups of children. You also mentioned the English language micro scholarship program, and we know that this program is cool, and this is opportunity to provide classes of the English language and American culture for children, temporarily displaced children, somehow traumatized children from families with low income, and some of the students, even before the war 2022, they had some problems in the families, and somehow it was not easy to work with such group of students. What is your experience working with traumatized children? I mean, at that time that you worked in Ukraine, and how you manage to work with different level students, different age group students, and with students who can be simply upset during the class or simply be dismotivated. What is your experience? Can you briefly explain us? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, back at the time in 2017, 19, working precisely with access students, I noticed that I don't know exactly to what degree, but I know that there was a portion of my students who unfortunately came from the Donbass area. They have families there, and at the time, they still have the conflict there, and some of them were coming to live to Mykolaiv. Um, so my experience or my approach in working with them was basically to try to come up with activities that would unify them all. Uh, I found it very, very important to do fun activities, cultural, fun, engaging activities. We would play games, we would do role plays, um, and also, having that engagement of the group, the access group into volunteering in the community or going to an excursion. I remember one time we went also to the beach in Odessa, so that was very positive. But I think the key is having, creating and doing a lot of activities that are engaging, a lot of games, a lot of interactive type of stuff. We did art, we would do celebrations. So I think that lifts their soul and heart. Also, last year I was teaching in I was teaching in Lithuania in a university there, and we have a lot of students from Ukraine, and a lot of them would come with with this trauma from the war, and I guess one thing that worked for me is to some degree during class, just let them express themselves, let them express what are their feelings about, about these unfortunate events, about the war, about how they perceive things. I think it's important to let them express what they're feeling, what they're going through, and at the same time not criticize them, just let them let some steam out, but at the same time in a positive way sort of redirect them
Yeah,
to the possible to the positive future outcomes about their own lives. Like, yes, this strategy is happening, let's focus on the positive, focus on your personal goals. What would you like to accomplish in the future? And anyway, and also even with this population of students, it was very helpful to do a lot of games. They would tell me, oh, can we do a game? Can we do an interactive activity? So we did a lot of guessing
yeah,
games,
yeah. Hmm, hmm.
uh, um, role play, interviews. Um, and I have to say that another thing that would help, dealing with trauma for several of these students is to also try to come up with other activities where their mind would be distracted. For instance, in the university we have a basketball club, so I was leading that club, so we were able to play basketball. We have different activities. We
Wow.
have painting, we have let me think. So we have basketball,
Sport, yeah,
painting.
sport, basketball, yeah. Art, you mentioned this is cool. Actually, I thank you for your response. And we practice also drama at class, and it's really helps to
Mhm,
express, change the roles, change genders, change the voice, and the way we usually look to something different. And sometimes it can help students to forget. You mentioned many good things as a methods of teaching, and that can help us to use the games, and games are really cool. Gamification is really important, and you also mentioned that uh, we like to give them choice. This is nice. This is freedom, and they like it. And
mhm,
I understand your concept, and I absolutely agree with it. What can help you to make atmosphere at class better? What things, what methods do you use when you see that somehow class is not so interesting? What can you recommend future
mhm,
teachers to do to make atmosphere better and to make mood a little bit, or like energizer when you feel like energy of the class is
mhm.
not so cool and not so bright in the way of emotions or in the way of productivity, when we talk about theoretical material. So
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I like that you mentioned the word energizer. It's been a long time, since 2019, since I heard that word. But yeah, energizers are really good because it allows the students to, you can get their attention. Is like a hook, and you get their attention. If you make it fun, if you make it quick, they get engaged into the game, into the activity, and that's a good way to keep them interested. Another thing that I think is important is to figure out what are their specific skills. And let me just give you this particular example. When you mentioned drama, during Access students, we did a quick uh, play performance that we presented in America House Kia. But anyway, the point was that the students themselves came up with the script. So they created the script, and I just kind of tried to figure out who's good at acting. We selected people to act, and those who didn't want to act, for instance, some of them were good in, at filming. Some of them were good at editing videos. Some of them were good with music. So playing a musical instrument. Some of them were good at dancing. Some of them were good at, designing images. So putting everybody together in the activity was very positive.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
amazing.
another alternative. And maybe even selecting different settings, like for instance, not only the classroom, but maybe it could be a lesson where, in a nice day during summer, it could be outside, just going outside to the park or to the garden and just read, have an
Yeah.
interactive, lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if we understand that, unfortunately, for most schools, it's not possible, but it's still possible to create nice atmosphere at class, and we teach our students how to make online classes cool. We don't know how much it will take. Hopefully, not so much time, but anyway, students can be exactly involved into these activities, nice activities, energizers. There is like in methodology we call it warming up, but warming up is something warm. Energizing is a little bit hotter, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and we are in search of these activities, and it is really cool. And of course, for parents, it's nice when students work seated class and have classes. But as for teachers, we are motivated to find these sources to make them involved, to make them speak, to make them engage in different activities, post how to say, extracurriculum activities. Yeah, and you
Mhm.
mentioned that if it is possible to go outside, we make projects that they can make photos outside and present while having a class. They can also make challenges. How to drink water, or stop smoking campaign, or make a photo of children playing expresses, or make a photo of something unusual. And it's still possible. They are not sitting at home. Yeah, they can go outside. And or what makes your mood better today, or do you have some nice news for today, or take a photo of it, or bring something. Yeah, it is really cool. We actually play also yoga. We do yoga at classes now with English. It is funny and it is really cool. I mean, I understand that distance learning can not so be emotionally expressive, nice as offline classes. But anyway, those who want to study, they will study, and those who want to teach exactly such motivated and motivating teachers as you, we will always find methods to make classes interesting. My next question will be the last one, and
Mhm.
can you please somehow compare, if it is possible? Do you have experience teaching temporary displaced students from different countries? Is there any difference between teaching students who are temporarily displaced in Ukraine, or some other students, I mean, in the United States of America, or just
Mhm.
your general experience teaching students who are not
Mhm.
somehow at home, yeah, temporarily displaced by different reasons, not just war.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I would say that in the US we don't have what we may call per se displaced students, because displaced sort of means they are just temporarily here and they will move. But we have a lot of what we call migrant students. So migrant students are students who come from Mexico,
Yeah, other
Central South
countries. Yeah.
America, and they come to the US to work on on agricultural work. They come typically seasonally, and then they stay a season and then they leave because they're moving around to other states or places to work. uh, so yeah, I mean, my experience with those students is that yes, it is also difficult because a lot of them have a lot of negative feelings about the US, about the new culture. They feel alienated. They feel like they're different from the American students, so they feel separated, right? So
Yeah.
some of the things that I have done is trying to do integration. So for
Hmm.
instance, when I was teaching a few years ago ESL or English in Oregon, obviously we were learning English. So what I would do, I would call the 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 Spanish teacher at the high school, and she would be teaching Spanish to the American students. So we would create just a quick
Hmm.
list of questions, simple questions. How are you? What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you like doing? And the whole idea was to get together and to ask each other's the same questions in the second language. So they would
Well,
practice English and Spanish. So that was very positive. So
yeah. You
integrating
unite
into the.
them. It's very nice. You unite
Mhm,
because everything that you do and you mention is exactly what they need. They are working as a team, and
mhm,
if you ask the same questions, you make them analyze and see other opinions. They can compare.
mhm,
They can even change opinions. It's really cool. It's also good for developing critical thinking skills, and
mhm.
it's really unity. And we are people of the earth, I would say. And hopefully, when the war is over, we will see you in Ukraine again,
Definitely.
and we
But
invite you. And mhm.
yes, but I mean, on that point, I think, given the situation that, a lot of students, a lot of teachers are virtual, like you are in Germany, I think it's good. It would be good to have connections to other teachers and have, create a Zoom where students from different countries come together and
Yeah,
share,
yeah,
their own cultural, backgrounds and values. I think that's very good because it gets students interested in on somebody else's culture, but also they feel, they feel pride about, okay, I'm gonna share something about Ukrainian culture, for instance, right? So it is a win-win situation, trying to have a class where different students from different countries